Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the podcast. I am your host, and yeah, this is the first episode of the podcast. What I'm trying to do on the podcast is mainly for singles and doubles, talking about team building, talking about tournaments, going over them, and talking about the metas, talking about rises and drops in the tiers, and talking about new news about Pokemon, whether it be leaks or whether it just be from the official Pokemon company itself. So sit down, grab some popcorn, and hope you enjoy. I am here with a friend of mine. Please welcome the guest for this episode, Rancer.
Hey everyone, it's nice to meet all of you. Well, I guess not meet all of you, but you get my point. Nice to meet everyone.
Yeah. So quickly, just explain your history with Pokemon in singles and doubles competitively.
Okay, so I was introduced to singles format in X and Y or Gen 6 from a friend of mine. And I've kind of been a big singles enjoyer since then. I never got into VGC until Sun and Moon. And even then, I wasn't fully invested into it. It was Gen 8 where I actually got technically more invested into VGC a little bit. It and then I got more invested into it in Sword and Scar and Violet. So I progressively have gotten more into VGC a little bit. I was still more of a singles guy at my heart because that was what I started out with. But I've accepted that the metas between both games are entirely different formats. There's just as it is what it is. It's just a different format, you know.
Oh yeah, totally. Like playing singles and playing doubles, like you're playing the same game, but it's completely different. Like the
Yeah,
mindset's
like the
completely different, and there are just some Pokemon
yeah.
that are absolutely terrible in singles, but are amazing in doubles, and vice versa.
Oh yeah, because I remember like Skarmory when it was around, like it was an OU staple for every single time in singles. But in VGC, it's bad because hazards were not very common, and there were just better flying types to choose from than Skarmory.
Yeah, did Skarmory
Like that's
does Skarmory like actually learn Tailwind? Because I think if you're a flying type in
uh
VGC, it's kind of like a requirement to learn Tailwind to be good, unless you're Landorus.
let me actually look up Skarmory right now. Skarmory. Yes, I use the Pokemon database because it's the fastest way to actually look up the moves here.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
latest one is Sword and Shield. So, mm, let's see. Because if I remember, Tailwind is a T.
Because
I
like
don't actually remember. I don't actually remember. Was Tailwind a TM mode in Sword and Shield? I don't actually remember.
I don't I think so. I haven't played Sword and Shield VGC for a long time. I just know that Corviknight, if you want to steal flying type in VGC, Corviknight is a thousand
Corviknight
times
was your
better
option.
because Corviknight
Yeah,
has mirror armor for like Icy Winds and Intimidate. It gets Tailwind by itself, and yeah, just stealing flying is just such a good typing defensively.
Okay, Scarby does not learn Tailwind. The closest he has to speed control is literally Icy Wind, which is
Oh,
like, wait, what? The state? Wait, I was like, wait a minute, Scar learns Icy Wind? What?
So then
Too
there's
bad.
like absolutely no reason why you'd want to use Skarmory over Corviknight other than I just like
Uh,
Skarmory more.
yeah, I guess maybe also deal damage with Icy Wind, but the problem is Scarry's special attack is literally 40. It's so bad. I was like, why would you run this? There's better Icy Wind users.
Sometimes Icy Wind isn't for the damage, but man, 40 special attack, that's useful for breaking focus sashes, not used for any other reason. But today's episode I wanted to go over is we just had some new drops and rises to the
Yep.
yeah, to the tier changes. Smogon, I think I should say this outright. Smogon is not Game Freak officiated or Game Freak associated.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of fans
Yeah.
that do this on their own and are not related to Game Freak whatsoever. But
They're like, yeah, it's like, think of it as like a kind of like a fan mod in a sort of way. Yes, that's the reason why Show that was made by them. It's just to allow the Pokemon competitive scene for singles to be done.
Yeah, Smogon is for singles, and they just help like generate like make rules like you're not allowed to put multiple Pokemon to sleep. Um, and then they have like drops and rise. They have like tiers like overused, underused,
Yep.
and just all these sorts of tiers. But every month, at the beginning of the month, they have tier changes, and this one, there's just a lot to go through. So in order for a Pokemon to drop from OU to UU, it has to be 4.5% usage or lower. And I think we're going to start
Um.
out with the funniest thing about this whole episode. So, yeah, in order for a Pokemon to drop, it has to get
Yeah.
4.52% or lower. Landorus Therian got 4.566%.
Yeah.
It was
Can we?
0.
Yeah. Yeah. Zero. Yeah. It was literally 0.04 away from dropping out of OU. It is literally hanging by a thread. No. Not by a thread. You know the scene for like Lion King where like Mufasa is barely hanging for his life,
Oh
and
yeah, and
Scar killed him like
Smogon
that. That
is
no
yeah.
Mufasa. Yeah, that literally sums up Lando T right now. He's barely fucking hanging, barely hanging, man. Like my god, that's insane. That he's almost not hanging on.
Yeah,
Because like last month he was in because I think in last month's tier he was like ranked number 35. And what is
I'm
actually
gonna
funny,
check that. Yeah, because
um
I got the
I did
usage stats. Landers Styrian in September was 4.649%. So yeah, he's been dropping. And it's just because like everyone knows Landorus. At least everyone in the competitive scene knows Landorus. Like if you think of a good
yeah.
competitive Pokemon, there's your answer. Landorus right there. He's like
Yeah.
one of the best Pokemon ever created. He's amazing in singles,
Yeah.
he's amazing in doubles. So whenever you think of a good Pokemon, at least in the competitive scene, you think of Landorus. So to see
Yeah.
Landorus about to drop to UU, power creep is coming upon us.
Yeah. Well, there's also like also before like Scar and Violet. I'll be straight up tell you where I have to get. I have a huge bias hatred to Lord Lando T. I hate this mod so much. I hate seeing him on every single team since like Gen 5. So bias hatred here, but I will definitely admit though that in every format since Gen 5 where he's been either top three or the number one most used, there was another reason why a lot of people think he should have gotten banned, but um specifically
Yeah.
he kept like metagames in check. Like if he did not exist, Pacific Pokemon would have dominated the game completely. But he was the one counter that kept them in check. But he was the
Yeah, because like in Gen 7 OU, he was used 80% of he had 80% usage. And people think that Landorus should have been banned, but a common misconception is just because a Pokemon is used a lot doesn't mean it needs to be outright banned. It depends
yeah.
on how the Pokemon goes into the metagame and how healthy it turns the metagame. So even if they have a usage stat of like 6% or like 8%, if they're not healthy for OU, then they get suspect
Yeah.
tested and that's when they get banned.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened with a couple Pokemon, which I think we may discuss them like soon. I'm not sure if we will because my favorite bear that I loved playing singles for got banned. I'm like, I'm gonna miss him. I'm gonna miss my broken bear.
Oh yeah, Ursaring, like yeah, Ursaluna Blood Moon.
Ursaluna Bloodmoon.
It's
Yeah,
funny. So
but
yeah, that's another thing I wanted to talk about. It's funny how Blissey was really it gained from never used to OU just for Ursaluna Blood Moon, but then in the data stats for OU, it had a 5.431%, so it did not drop to UU. So even during the month without even when Ursaluna was banned, it was still in OU. I think that's kind of hilarious that people were still trying to make Blissey work in OU.
I'm gonna be honest. We'll get back to the whole loyalty discussion. I'm just gonna make a prediction right away. I think Blizzard will go back to below. Will go back below OU probably next month
Oh
because the
yeah.
only reason it was mainly used is now completely gone.
Oh yeah.
Like
Um,
I'm looking at like the rest of the men. I'm like, how in the world does Blissey actually deal with all this? Like
'Cause, like, oh
how?
yeah,
How
it
did,
it gets destroyed by Kingambit, it gets destroyed by Great Tusk, it gets destroyed by physical Iron Valiant. I mean, it can check Iron Moth, but I mean, it's not really going to do anything back to Iron Moth.
well, yeah, yeah,
People
and
might
also
think,
Iron Moth does a ridiculous amount of damage anyway, so like it's good to get like wall breaked like relatively easily.
oh yeah, like
Yeah,
I first I was like, oh, like because Golden Go has a 27% usage, maybe people use it, but then I forgot that it's a ghost type and Seismic Toss, its only good damaging move, it's immune to. So I'm totally
yeah.
with you with the prediction that it's not going to survive OU. There's no
Like even
chance.
even like physical Dragon Ball that's more common than special Tiger variant, even that beats Blissey completely.
Yeah, and some
Um,
special and some choice specs Dracopult if they do run U-turn. So if they just see a Blissey, they'll just U-turn out into a better Pokemon.
yeah, it also doesn't help that Blissey doesn't learn teleport anymore this gen, where it did in Sword and Shield, which was a big boon to it.
Oh yeah,
And
Blissey got
honestly,
murdered.
and also, thank you. I hate Blissey too. I really hate
Oh
Blissey.
my, I hated Blissey in Gen 7 so much because of all the balance mons. Because I used Alakazam because I love Alakazam and it just did a lot of damage. But oh my goodness, it did nothing to like Chansey and Blissey.
Yeah,
Because like they got murdered in Gen 9, which thank you Game Freak. Oh my goodness, we were begging you to get rid of like so much stuff from Blissey. Like it lost Toxic, it lost Teleport. Soft Boil is only 8 PowerPoint now. But it's like, oh my goodness, thank you, Game Freak.
yeah. All right, so okay, so like that, like aside, however, we'll get back to that discussion later. Let's get back to Lando T.
Yeah.
But at this point, like for a few gens, even though I hated Lando T a lot significantly, I just kind of accepted over time that he's a necessary evil at times.
Yeah, totally.
That yeah, but now
Cause
here in Gen 9, he's okay. So let's see. I think he received his nerfs in Gen 8 as well because I know he used to learn Pursuit and then that got removed in Gen
oh my
8. I'm
goodness,
pretty sure he
Landers
did.
with Pursuit must have been nuts.
I could double check here.
Cause it like cause
Landers.
like when he came back, he lost a bunch of
Yeah,
utility moves. I cannot
yeah,
pronounce that word. He
yeah,
lost like Toxic. He lost Knockoff. He lost Defog. Those are already three
yeah,
great moves that Landorus
yeah,
used.
yeah,
So right now,
yeah.
if
Those
you
were like
so
yeah.
yeah,
So
right now,
uh,
if you want to use Landorus, you're basically kind of forced to use its good physical moves, like 145 base attack and stab earthquake. Like that is already powerful with a great defensive typing U-turn and now can Terra flying and Terra Blast, so it finally gets flying stab that isn't fly. But it's just the fact that this metagame, there's so many good ground types. There's
uh,
Great
yeah,
Tusk, there's
yeah.
Gliscor.
Okay, Loyalty does not learn Pursue, but every other nerf he got, yeah, they were pretty significant in Gen 9 specifically. But
Because
yeah, that's how also I was also gonna say the same thing too about the ground types. Like, here's the thing, like a lot of the ground types we have, like they're pretty powerful Pokemon, but the one that really stood out the most was by far Great Tusk. And here's the funny part: one of the main reasons why Lando T was a staple in OU for so long, its utility was like the best of like almost any Pokemon in OU. And not only did it lose some of the best utility moves at disposal, like you mentioned, like knockoff, the fog, those types of things. Now you have Great Tusk, which everyone nicknamed uh Lando T 2.0 because in utility it basically is it pretty much was Lando T in utility. Like it had rapid spin, it had knockoff, it had ice spin as an option to hit ground or flying types. It had fine type stab and fine type stab at its disposal. No, it had fine type and ground stab
yeah,
as disposal. Like it was a pretty first. It even had bulk up. So if you want to do a bulk up sweeping set, you actually can with rapid spin. It actually does work, even though it's not his most common set. It does. You can make it work because of his ability and the fact he's a paradox mon, and he has incredible stats on top of that. Um, let's just say in terms of utility, like he basically outclassed Lando T completely in that role.
And a headlong rush, which is 120 base power, is more powerful from Great Tusk and an earthquake from Landorus. Um, and
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
one of the big problems with Great Tusk is its 87 speed, which is kind of middling. And the only way that you're actually going to get a speed boost from booster energy is if you didn't put any EVs in attack or defense and you had like a minus lowering nature for one of them. But yeah, guess what? It gets rapid spin, one of the like the best singles moves because not only does it free you from hazards, binds, and leech seed, but it gives you a +1 speed boost.
Yeah,
Landorus would
and
kill
that was
for
a
rapid
buff that
spin.
yeah. Yeah, and that was a buff that even favored Pokemon like say Excadrill and Gen 8 with it, because that's when Rapid Skin got buffed to speed boost. It
Yeah.
benefited Excadrill a lot with his Swords Dance variant because that's always been his best moveset. But here's the funny part about Lando T. Despite that he got completely outclassed by Greatus as a utility ground type Mon, he actually still had a good role in the OU tier just because Intimidate is one of the best abilities in singles and VGC. So it still had a purpose in OU despite being outclassed in the utility role. It's mainly I don't play Lando T a lot in Gen 9, but I think it was used as a physically defensive wall because Intimidate was that good
Yeah.
of an ability that it really like it gave him a unique role compared to Grey Tusk. Unfortunately, Teal Mask, Gliscor came in and said hi, and literally just took his spot as a physically defensive ground type.
Yeah, because like back in like Gen 5 or Gen 6, there was a reason to use Landorus Therian over Gliscor and vice versa. But now that Landorus just lost a lot of utility and that it's just a physical ground type, it's really outclassed by Great Tusk. And yeah, Gliscor came in and just said hello. And also the funny thing about this whole thing is if Landorus does drop to UU, that means there are no more intimidators in Overused. And
Yeah, and
Intimidate
see,
is one of the
yeah, yeah, exactly, and that's the thing too. Like, if there is a possibility Lenalty stays in OU somehow by some miracle, it will very likely just because of how good Intimidate is as an ability.
yeah, and the Landorus just has to pray that in the Indigo Disc, which is coming out on December 14th, which is pretty hype. If when that comes out, Landorus just has to get some buffs. Like it has to get knockoff back, or it has to get the fog back, or it has to get all these stains. But the funny thing is even if it got like knockoff and the fog, then you can kind of like say like, okay, I'm going to use Landorus Therian over Great Tusk because of the ability. Like that's totally fair. But it just has to get buffs in the Indigo disc, or it's just going to drop to UU. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
if you told someone back in like Gen 5 or Gen 7 that in a couple years that Landorus is going to fall to UU, they would laugh in your face. They're like, yeah, there's no way that Landorus would ever fall to UU. There's no amount of power creep
Scar,
that would actually drop
yeah,
Landorus.
yeah. Scarlet might be like, hold my beer.
Yeah. Um, me and Rancer have had some conversations in the past about power creep. He was a firm believer that Gen 5 power creep was still the most impactful. But I gotta say that Gen 9 power creep
But
is
yeah,
nuts.
and after I put yeah, exactly. After I played Gen 9, tried that out, I was like, I don't know, I do not know how Game Freak did it, but they did it. They added in power creep so insane that it outshines Gen 5. I was like, I was blown away they were able to do it. I was like, what? How did you able to do that?
And just in case there are some people who didn't play Gen 5 singles, just the amount of power creep Gen 5 came where a lot of OU staples like Swampert and Suicune from like Gen 4 and Gen 3, Suicune, Swampert, OU staples, and then in Gen 5 it fell to UU. Yeah, like there were a lot of OU staples like Raikou as well that just fell to UU because of how insane Gen 5 power creep was. But now Gen 9, you took the cake. I don't know how you did it, buddy, but you took the cake.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and just to give the proof of it, if you look at the amount of Pokemon they banned, like let's say if you count Cyclizar and Houndstone before they got unbanned because of changes to their balance philosophy around them. Gen 9, not even kidding, banned 18 Pokemon. And I have looked up all banned Pokemon for different gens. None of them have ever banned this many Pokemon. And they're like, that's insane. How many Pokemon they
18.
banned this
Yeah.
gen? That's
I
insane.
mean, even if you didn't want to count Zamazenta crowned because it is technically a box art legendary, 17. Holy crap. 17 bands and we aren't even done because we still got the Indigo disc left to go and that could give
That makes me
Pokemon
wonder what are
buffs,
they gonna.
that could introduce new Pokemon that could shift the metagame, and plus they're talking about banning Gliscor and Golden Go, which we're going to talk about later. Like the amount of
Yeah.
bands this generation, it's insane. I don't think I've ever seen this many bands.
Yeah, and think about it too. If we don't count Cyclozar and Houndstone, that would be 16 bans in total. Because originally, when Cyclozar got banned originally, it was because the Shed Tail was an insanely broken move, and because it worked with its regenerate ability, it's insanely fast. I think 125 speed. I think, and it had
121.
good utility, and yeah, and it had really good utility on top of Shed Tail. It was essentially like the new age baton pass in a way of all the broken interactions it gave. And
And then it
yeah,
could
and
hold heavy duty boots in case you wanted to stealth rock or spikes it, so then it can lose health by going in.
yeah, exactly.
But no, you just give it a
Yeah,
heavy duty
exactly.
boots.
Yeah, like it had
And
access to rapid spin, which makes it insanely fast. Had knockoff. It had U turn, and you could run Dragon Claw if you want for Dragon Stab, and like
or
those four
Draco
moves was
Meteor.
all. Yeah,
Yeah,
Draco Meteor
because
if you
you
want
could
to.
like
Oh yeah,
Draco
Draco. Oh, actually, it
Meteor.
was Draco Meteor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because you could
if
like
you wanted
Draco
to.
Meteor
Like
and then
yeah,
Rapid Spin. No, Draco Meteor and then Shed Tail. So then, like, it was an insane utility mon. And then Shed Tail got banned, so it dropped to UU. And then
yeah.
Houndstone got banned because of the move Last Respects, where every time one of your teammates die, you get 50 base power to that move. So if all of your Pokemon die and Houndstone was the last Pokemon alive, Last Respects was a base 300 move.
Hard move. Yeah,
300.
and okay, and here's the funny part, and here's the crazy thing, right? You would think, okay, that's insane, but Houndstone's not that fast of Pokemon. It's got 70, at least like 70-ish base speed. Like, there's no way it can be fast enough to be able to utilize its Sand Rush. Wait, what? Yeah, it
The
was
way it
common on
gets Sand
sand teams. There
Rush,
was a reason. Yeah, so its speed is doubled under sand.
like, and plus it was it was a more scarier Sand Rush than Exadrill. It was a
Yeah, all because of
scarier
this one
Sand Rush than
attack.
Exadrill, which was banned to Ubers in Gen 5.
Yeah, before Black and White 2 came out, which added more power creep that balanced out Excadrill a little bit, and also changes to weather. But we're talking about current gen right now. But yeah, Houndstone with Sand Rush on the sand. There was a reason why Sand was combat at the beginning of the metagame. When Scarlet Violet came out, it was just because of that. And so you even get cheese strats where you would have mods that have momentum based switches that either they would basically SD or kill themselves on purpose. So they could just bring in Houndstone, which also buffs which by the way, because they're killing themselves, they're buffing up
Last
I
Respects.
forgot the move. Last Respects, yeah. It would buff Last Respects at the same time while Sand is up. And and I think I don't even remember if Tyranitar learned Explosion, but I remember one mon I seen in VODs of it actually ran Explosion because it dealt damage and it would trigger Last Respects. You had cheese versions of it and actual legit good built teams around Houndstone. It was pretty nutty. Like literally, almost there was no safe switch to them other than normal type Pokemon, and
Yeah,
even
because
then,
Last Respects was a
Houndstone,
ghost type
Houndstone,
move.
yeah, but even then, Houndstone had other good tools to deal with those normal types.
Yeah, like it
You could
learned
even run
body
some fire
press.
types to deal with it. Yeah, which is actually so like literally there was no safe switching against Houndstone. Nothing could switch in against Last Respect.
Yeah, and
And it
it
yeah,
it got
like
the
really
and
yeah, like
before
you like priority yeah. Like priority was literally the only way to revenge kill this thing. And the only mod that literally stood a chance was literally Kingambit.
yeah, but wouldn't he get
And
destroyed?
it,
Oh, I mean, Sucker Punch. Yeah, never mind. Sucker Punch would do good stuff to
yeah,
Houndstone.
yeah,
But
yeah.
and it's
But here
but
but here's
the funny thing about
yeah, and
that
like
is that
yeah.
if Basque Legion that if Last Respects wasn't banned, then Basculegion probably would have been banned day one because of adaptability or Swift Swim. At
Yeah,
Last
like either
Respects.
version, like yeah, like if that happened, and I was also gonna mention that Hanzo could just tear type the Sun to resist Dark type and absolutely destroy Kingambit in the 1v1. So like it wouldn't even matter. But yeah, that's actually true. Because Basculegion would have been just better version Houndstone because its type is better defensively, better offensively as well because you're water type. And also, you have two good abilities that abuse last respects in different ways.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah, like one
totally.
hundred percent. It definitely would have been banned from OU like day one. But you know what? I'm actually glad. Like I normally am not a huge fan of banning Pokemon just because they learned this one specific broken move. But I am glad that Bastion Legion actually learned last respects, make him the second Pokemon to learn it. Kind of made them change their bounce philosophy that okay, we will unban Houndstone, but in exchange for it, we are banning last respects completely. In my opinion, I normally disagree with a lot of the bounce decisions that Smallgun picks in terms of bans. This is one of the only few bans I think I completely agree with. You might as well ban the move that got them banned to begin with, so you can let them be set, so you can let them roam free.
Oh yeah, totally. Like I played
Um,
Ubers back when that was banned, and all I did was just set up Tyranitar, let Tyranitar die in front of Koraidon, and then I'll just let yeah, and then I'll just let Houndstone sweep because Houndstone was even good in Ubers.
yeah, just because last respect was insane.
And holy man, we got off topic. But yeah, Gen 9 power creep is one of the biggest reasons why Pokemon have dropped from OU
Yeah.
to UU. Because like that's why Garchomp fell last. That's why Garchomp fell last. Last tier change. That's the word. And also like the tier changes. Like we had Heatran fall to UU. I mean, in tier in this
And
and one, it fell back. It gained. It went back to OU, but
yeah, but
Heatran fell to UU.
yeah, and I was like, that is insane that this OU staple since Gen 4 went to UU for the first time ever. Like, that's just mind blowing. It's when T-Tar went to UU for the first time.
Oh, I lost my mind when T-Tar lost to when T-Tar went to UU. I and then when it dropped and then when it dropped to RU, I blew my mind. I'm like, there's no way Tyranitar is surviving RU. And even in the tier change for November, it dropped back to RU, which it's not gonna
Yeah.
last.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna be honest with you. That was like, man, I guess that knockoff was not a good enough buff for T-Tar then, huh? I guess it was
It's
not
like
impactful
like
enough.
if in Gen 5 or Gen 6 or literally any gen, if it gained knockoff, it could have been an OU staple. Knockoff coming from
Yeah.
T-Tar is insane.
Oh yeah, I think the one problem T-Tar unfortunately had was that the knockoff was an amazing buff for him, but the problem is that now they made him have competition in OU as a knockoff user. Although to be fair, a Sandstream user that also is really bulky, technically that was I guess a decent enough niche to set itself apart. But yeah, that knockoff buff did not seem enough to actually help him go back up to OU. At least like so far. We could be completely wrong. Maybe next month his usage will probably skyrocket. He might go back to OU. Who knows?
Because the thing is with Tyranitar, it has such an awful typing. Like Rock Dark has just so many weaknesses, and the fact that it lost Pursuit means that Dark types and like Ghost and Psychic types
Yeah,
aren't
that's
like
another
that.
big one. Yeah,
It lost
yeah,
like
like
losing
that's
Pursuit
another
was
big one. Yeah,
huge. Um, Cause yeah, I heard this argument that T-Tar is not a good Pokemon because of its awful typing, and if you want to terrestrialize it, that means you're like terrestrializing your Pokemon just to deal with one other Pokemon, which that shouldn't be the use
yeah,
of terrestrializing. Terrestrializing should be so
yeah,
then you can help your Mon deal with the whole team and not just one specific
yeah,
Mon.
yeah. Like the one comment. Yeah, and usually the reply back I always hear is that if you're using terrestrialize just to like give your mon a good defensive type or to deal with specific mons, that's probably a sign that the mon is not very good. But I mean, like, let's say if I wanted to play Avlog, which is infinitely known as a bad Pokemon, at least in the higher tiers, because it's a slow, bulky wall, ice type wall, which, as we know, Ice type is not a very good defensive type. It's one of the worst ever in the game. Even with snow buffs this gen, it's not enough to make them like hard to kill unless you're what was it? Unless you're what the hell? What's the name of that dragon ice type again?
Terrestrializing.
No, not terrestrializing. Excalibur. Unless you're Excalibur, who's like the only good bulky ice type to take advantage under snow, just because it's a big threat. But anyway, back to the Avalok example. If I wanted to make Avalok a better Pokemon, I'm forced to always terrestrialize it to a defensive typing just to take advantage of his best traits. And I'll be honest, I don't like wasting my terrestrialization. Like, yeah, it is good on the mon. I don't like making my whole Terra mechanic focused around just this one mon. When if I'm forced to do that every time, that's a sign the mon's not very good to begin with.
Yeah,
If
and
your mod it makes but like and that's where you can tell that separates the good Pokemon from it just because of terrestrialization, right? If you have a mod that makes incredibly good abuse of it, but works perfectly fine by themselves, then they're a good Pokemon. Look at Kingambit. It's one of the best abuses to terrestrialization, but you don't see everyone use it on him every single time because his typing and everything else about him is so good that he doesn't have to heavily rely on Terra type to work.
yeah, and it's the fact that if you need to terrestrialize another Pokemon on your team, then like what do you do? Like let's say you had an NU team and you wanted to terrestrialize Gligar, for example, and then you bring out Avalok and you can't terrestrialize him. Well, what do you do with him now? Like you got to put in extra work to make him more useful.
Yeah, exactly. And that leads to T-Tar. The flying type was the best chart type it made good use of. And to be fair, it is a good one. It removes his ground and fighting weakness. But it came with a huge. But that was mainly because it had a terrible matchup against Great Tusk. It literally could not touch Great Tusk at all. Literally could not do anything. And one fight, in one close combat, boom, you're dead. And
And
this
it's
leads to
like
the
if you
second
want to
problem of going to
terrestrialize, it's like you want to terrestrialize
Yeah,
flying into Great Tusk. Well, here's Ice Spinner.
Yeah, exactly. If they run that, or they just run an ice type on their team. And this leads to the second problem about terrestrializing the flying type. You lose your rock steel, you
Rock
lose your
Dart.
rock typing, which means you lose your special defense buff from sand, and you take damage from your own sand. So so it's like playing a guts Pokemon where you're chipping yourself down over time if you do this. And I'm like,
And you're not even giving yourself a
that
buff.
is a like literally the only buff you're giving yourself, you're just removing two of your weaknesses completely. That's legitimately the only benefit of it. To which at that point I'm like, if I wanted to stay like say a mon that like takes advantage of sand, like I know that I'll keep my ground and fighting weakness, but I would rather just terrestrialize into steel, honestly, because yeah, I still keep my main weaknesses, but at least like I'm not 4 times weak to fighting, and I get more resistances like in a way. But again, that's not a very good use of terrestrialization because that's a waste of it on T-Tar. That's a good.
Yeah, because there are some Pokemon that are good without terrestrialization, and there are Pokemon where terrestrialization just makes them go to the moon. Like the only reason Volcarona was banned to Ubers was because of terrestrialization, and
Yeah,
and there are just some Pokemon
yeah,
like there's no way Reggie would not have been banned unless terrestrialization was the mechanic, so then it could just Terra Ice. Because Regieleki is really the only example of a Pokemon who is only good with terrestrialization, but because it's so good with terrestrialization, then it just overshadows any Pokemon. That's the only example right now that the Pokemon is only good but because of terrestrialization, but because of terrestrialization, it just skyrockets.
yeah. Like it was also another reason why. Well, I would say it's the main reason, but I would say for Annihilate specifically, it was one of the main reasons why. The second one being that Rage Fist was a really busted move, just a little worse last respects, but also really insane move. But
And plus, if you wanted to go like bulk up, rest, chesto sets were popular in OU, because like you bulk up, so then you make yourself live longer, then you could rest up and then have a chesto berry, so then you wake back up
yeah,
again. And Annihilate just
yeah,
destroyed walls. But holy man, this is a podcast. I know we've been getting off topic, but I just wanted to go over the usage stats for this month. King
yeah.
Gambit
Yeah,
is back again at number one. It used to be Great Tusk in September, but Kingambit took over. 40% usage. I think it's now a good
yeah,
time to talk about Kingambit because holy man, the Pokemon
right,
community hates Kingambit because of just
yeah.
how insanely good it is.
Yeah, and can I just tell you, I actually thought the mod was good, but I didn't think it was this insane at the start. And then I learned it has a comeback mechanic, and I'm like, yeah, this mod is broken. This mod's actually broken.
Because it has two amazing abilities. Like Defiant is amazing, but Supreme Overlord has to be one of the best singles abilities of all time, especially coming from a Pokemon with 135 physical attack, and and then it can learn Sword Stance.
Yeah, and then it has Sucker Punch for mind games. It can learn Iron Head. You really don't need to run any coverage rules. Just a Dark and Steel Stab is all you need on this mod.
And
That's
then
all you need.
it can learn Brick Break for opposing King Gambits or Low Kick for opposing King Gambits.
Well, and also Brick Break also having the utility to get rid of screens, which is actually very big because screens, thanks to Rover, is actually a decent viable strategy. So that's a nice purpose of running Brick Break. That's a nice purpose.
Uh, um,
But
the majority of the gaming of the not gaming, but the Pokemon community wants Kingambit banned because of how insanely good it is. Like they ran a test, and to my knowledge, it was like it was the majority of people wanted Kingambit banned. I don't remember. I would have to look it up again. But the majority of people wanted Kingambit banned. And it's like Supreme Overlord is an ability where this Pokemon moves have a 10% more power for each fainted ally, up to 5
yeah,
allies.
so basically, last respects, but it's an ability that does not consume a move slot. And I'm like, hold on, man, you banned Houndstone for having this move, a move like this. Then you banned a move. Why aren't you banning Beast King Gambit for the same reason?
Yes, and in like Iron Head becomes like with Supreme Overlord, if 5 allies fainted, Iron Head goes from like a base 80 base power to 105. That's 105 steel type move coming from King Gambit.
Yeah,
And then like Kowtow
yeah,
Cleave will go to like 110 and Sucker Punch
yeah.
will go to
And here's the,
100. It's a stronger
yeah, and
extreme speed.
and that's the crazy part. That's not taking into consideration stab. That makes it more powerful. This
And
is
not to
like
and
that's
that's
only based on the ability alone.
and the fact that it can terastallize into a dark type, making its sucker punches do even more damage, or making like Terra Flying, so then your Terra Blast do insane damage. Like this Pokemon, like there's a reason why it has 40% usage rate. It is like
Yeah,
this.
and-
The typing
yeah,
is really good defensively. It has amazing stats. It has Sword Stance
yeah,
and really good moves like Kowtow Cleave, Iron
yeah.
Head, Brick Break, Sucker Punch, Poison Jab. I mean, Stone Edge if you really want to run that.
Yeah, and also here's like two other sayings that are crazy to think about in terms of King Gambit, right? Well, one, let's say if Small God, because knowing Small God, their weird decisions regarding bans or whatever. Like, let's say they wanted to keep King Gambit in the game because it's in the city to keep Pacific Mons in check, but to compensate everyone, let's say they decide to ban its main ability, Supreme Overlord. Okay, that's fine, except one problem: he has Defiant. So literally, you're not like yeah, Defiant has weaknesses compared to like Supreme Overlord, but King Defiant is still a pretty good ability, honestly, making him basically immune to Intimidate in a way.
And especially since Rabombi came from the teal mask and it gets sticky webs up, like it
Yeah,
was really
it would just
popular
buff
for its
him.
sticky webs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and let's be real.
Rabombi has an 8.655% usage rate. So if they ban Supreme Overlord and it runs Defiant, well there goes Rabombi. Because like if even if because like King Gambit has a base 50 speed. So if its speed gets lowered by 1, it really does not care. It gaining a +2 physical attack, like
Yeah,
that's what it really wanted is a +2 like that's what you really want to give King Gambit, a free +2 physical attack. It gets a sword stance just for entering the battle.
yeah, And here's the crazy part: that matchup was already good for King Gambit to begin with, even without Defiant, because Supreme Overlord was his more con ability. That matchup was already good for King Gambit.
So
It was
there have
just
been some
Rabami just
serious
became free
talk.
setup fodder.
There have been some serious talk about banning Kingambit. And as much as I love Kingambit, because I've been using Kingambit on my OU team ever since it came out. But
Yeah,
I love Kingambit, but even I think that Kingambit should be banned because it's not
yeah.
good for the
I
meta
think it's
game.
time to yeah. I think it's time to spotlight is like basically come and gone now.
This
Like
basically
he's
doesn't
gotten
have
better
any
over.
checks.
He's yeah, like he basically King Gambit has gotten significantly better over time. And I'm gonna be honest, there's another reason why I think he should be banned. His playstyle, all because of Supreme Overload, makes him potentially the best comeback Pokemon in the entire game. Literally, he's a comeback mechanic in the game by himself. You literally, I'm not even that good with King Gambit, but if I actually just save him at the right timing when most of my guys die, I just come back for just him alone because Supreme Overload is that broken of an ability.
He's literally Arsene.
Yeah, it's God. It's just
It's like I'm
that's what
trying
I'm
to
saying.
think.
That is just
I
that's
can't
this
think of
mod is just so insane.
I can't think of it. I'm trying to look through the OU tier. I can't really think of any Pokemon that are good into King Gambit. I mean,
Like
cause like
Great Tusk is technically really the only one, but Terra Flying is semi common on the like King Garrus, so even then, he could just Terra the Flying, just beat Great Tusk 1v1 unless he plays Ice Spinner. Um I'm pretty sure he 100% beats Gliscor because Gliscor has like can I use because Gliscor has almost little to no way to actually touch King Gambit. Like, yeah, he can hit him with Earthquake, but he can't use Toxic on him at all because he's
plus
part
and
Steel,
plus
and he could
Gliscor has
and
a
also and yeah, and also like King Gambit being a good abuser of terrestrialization, like that already alone combined with how strong he is, that in itself is a mind game because you have no idea when he's going to terrestrialize. And if you guess wrong against King Gambit, he very likely got a free kill.
because the Smolgon definition of a counter is a Pokemon that's supposed to switch in, take the attack, and then deal with that Pokemon. There's really no Pokemon in the game that can switch into Kingambit and still take another hit while it deals with Kingambit. So on paper, there are literally no counters to Kingambit. So banning him, 100% agree with.
Yeah, I think he should be banned. I do not want to have a combat mechanic at Pokemon.
Because
It's
like
just
Pokemon like Great
it's just
Tusk,
like even when I play King Gambit, it's like I don't even have fun when I play him just because his combat mechanic is so strong.
because like with Pokemon like King Gambit is a great, amazing mon, but it has weaknesses. Like its special defense is absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. 53 physical
100%.
53 special defense, absolutely terrible. You die to any special move. Like it has an insane move pool. It has great stats. It has a great offensive typing. Like Great Tusk is a great Pokemon, no pun intended,
Yeah,
but even him should
yeah,
not
like
be
even
ban
yeah,
worthy because he's a great Pokemon, but he's not a broken Mon. Kingambit is the definition
exactly.
of a broken Mon.
Yeah, exactly. And also, even Great Tusk's own typing can also be good defensively, especially if you give it a terrestrialization typing to make it more bulky. Like, and that's completely optional. But yeah, I do agree that I actually love playing Great Tusk a lot. He's actually one of my favorite new additions added to Scarlet Violet, and I'm actually glad he has actual clear weaknesses despite being an insanely good Pokemon.
Like he actually has weaknesses that you can use to deal with Great Tusk if he's on the opposing side. Some
Yeah.
people may
Although I feel
argue
bad
that
for
for
yeah.
King Gambit, some people may argue that for King Gambit, the only weakness it has is it's really slow. But because it's so bulky, especially with the Steel Dark typing, and it gets Sucker Punch,
Yeah, man.
that slow is not really a weakness anymore.
Yeah, yeah, and that leads to another big strength about him. Because of Supreme Overlord with Sucker Punch and a Swords Dance, literally, that's a really dangerous 50-50 mind game you have to guess. Because if you guess just wrong, just one time against King Gambit, the King
Lose,
Gambit
you
player
lose. It's
very
just straight
likely
up
won
you
the
lose.
match. You just straight up lose the game. Yeah, you have to make a guess.
Because
And
like
the
you have to
funny part,
guess: is he going to sucker punch? Is he going to sword stance again, or is he just going to do an attacking move like Kowtow Cleave? While I do a
yeah,
like the mind like I played King Gambit and the mind games are insane. Like you have like the person has to basically do a coin flip. Is he going
yeah,
to do a sucker punch or is he going to do another
yeah.
move?
And the crazy thing is, over 90% of the time, it favors King Gambit. So like there
Yes.
is literally never almost never a moment that it favors the opponent for guessing right against King Gambit. It almost never favors them. Like legitimately. And here's the thing. Having mind games of Pokemon, that's not always a bad thing. Having mind games of Pokemon is fine, because that's the whole point. You guess what the opponent's gonna do. But
Yeah, like it's basically being outplaying your
but
opponent.
yeah, exactly. But I cross the line when King Gambit sets you up in that scenario, but 90% of the time it always favors King's Gambit's favor. It's always in King Gambit.
Because like mind games are fine for Pokemon because like that's the point of Pokemon is to take your team, outplay your opponent. But it's the fact that King Gambit sets up so many mind games. Like when I play King Gambit, I have to do so many mind games. Like should I sword stance? Should I Iron Head? Or should I sucker punch? Like are they going to predict me sucker punching? They're going to do attack, so should I kowtow cleave them? Or are they going to hit me first? So I should sucker punch them and mind games like that aren't healthy, especially with a 40% usage rate.
Yeah.
Because
It's
King yeah, because 40% usage is like for comparison, the next like for 40 comparison, the next most used Pokemon is Great Tusk at 29.6%. 11% difference.
yeah.
And then
And
after
Great
Great
Tusk, like,
Tusk,
yeah,
it's
he
And then after
yeah.
Great Tusk, it's Golden Go with 27.8. So 11% difference. That's a wide one. That's a wide margin.
Yeah. And it used to be like for a while, it used to be like closer between King Gambit and Goldango, and then King Gambit is like third, and then King Gambit just took a while, and then he just he started to go up, and he took the spot as the number one best Pokemon in OU.
Yeah,
And
so I'm just gonna finish
yeah,
that
there's
King Gambit. I'm just gonna finish the King Gambit thought. We both think that King Gambit should be banned, and the majority of like, if you're being honest with yourself, King Gambit should be banned to OU. King Gambit should be banned from OU. The majority of people think it, but both you and I think it. Just King Gambit should be banned. Just straight up, no argument. There's really no argument for people thinking that King Gambit should stay in OU, and I'm shocked that it's almost lasted a year in OU.
yeah, I'm actually shocked it lasted this long. I was like, why is it still here? Why?
So there are like four other Pokemon that they want to ban, which is just nuts.
Yeah.
They wanted to
Okay,
ban
so
Gliscor. They want to ban Gliscor, and like for you, those of you thinking like, why Gliscor? Like Gliscor is not overpowered, and you're right. Gliscor is not overpowered. It's been a good OU Mon, especially ever since it got Poison Heal. It's been a good Mon. But Rancer, do you think you could? I think you do a better job at explaining why people think Gliscor should
okay,
be banned.
so for people that don't really know, Gliscor has not appeared since Gen 8. Or actually no, since Gen 7. He did not appear in Gen 8, but here he makes a return. He did lose a couple things significant. He doesn't have Roost anymore, so he cannot PP stall as effectively anymore. Which honestly, I think that's a completely fair nerf, because this mob was really annoying to fight against, at least to me personally. So I think that's a completely fair nerf. I think he lost. I don't remember if there was another move. I think he learned another significant move, but I know Roost was a big one.
I think Roost was really
But
the only move that he lost that was actually significant.
yeah, probably yeah. I think there was a second one, but yeah, Roost was definitely a significant one for sure. But to compensate for this, he received two of the best hazards in the game: spikes, which in my opinion that's the biggest one by far, and the second biggest one that he learns toxic spikes. If you people that don't know why that's insane on Gliscor, he's a ground type with actually good solid physical attack and can learn sword stance. You want to know why that's broke? Why that's insane? Because if he sets up one layer of toxic spikes, even two, if he gets that far, he punishes poison types that switch in to remove the spikes, because he could just earthquake them and punish them for it. He's the only toxic spike setter that can punish poison types for coming in to get rid of him. He's the only one in the game that can do that, which is insane. And also part flying type, so you gain immunity to ground, you get immunity to electric, so you cannot get volt switched on. Um, and because of all these factors, he was essentially the main reason Great Tusk was not number one most used Pokemon anymore. Well, I guess technically Kingambit took his spot, but let's say that the reason why Great Tusk went down a little bit since the TMS DLC came out, it was mainly because of Gliscor. Because Gliscor hard-walled Great Tusk, literally Great Tusk could not touch him at all. He could just basically protect Poison Heal, stall him the whole time, and there was not much Great Tusk could do. Because of Gliscor's popularity, he forced Great Tusk to sacrifice Knockoff most of the time in favor of Ice Spitter just to deal with him. But that's a bad nerf to Great Tusk indirectly, because by getting rid of Knockoff, you lose that utility move to get rid of items just to deal with this one Mon. On it. That's not great because Knockoff was mainly used on Great Tusk to deal with Goldango. But if you
Yeah.
sacrifice, yeah, but if you sacrifice Knockoff, you don't have a really good super effective answer to Goldango because Goldango's most common moveset uses Air Balloon to bypass ground type moves.
Yeah, so stealth it learns stealth rock, it learns spikes, it learns toxic spikes, it can poison the opponent with poison heal. And then
Yeah,
the thing
yeah,
the icing
toxic
on the
and
cake, the icing on the cake is its insane pairing with Golden Go. Because when I first
yeah,
heard about Gliscor, I was like, why not use Corviknight? Corviknight won't get poisoned by toxic, it's immune to earthquake. Why not use Corviknight and just defog all the stuff away? Well, Golden
yeah,
Go has an ability called Good as Gold, which is this Pokemon is immune to status moves. And
yeah.
when we move
So
status moves, we mean all status moves, not just Thunder Wave or Will-O Wisp. We mean all,
yeah,
like Parashawn as
yeah,
well.
yeah, and that's why, and the reason why that's significant is because Goldango counters one of the best, most free hazard removal abilities moves in Defog, because Defog is technically a status move because it reduces a stat, and Good as Go completely is immune to it and shuts off the move. So even the Fog Corviknight, normally the best the Fog user, gets hard counted by Goldango just because of that. It cannot remove hazards, and it dies very early, and it gets wall breaked by Goldango because of how strong it is.
Corviknight, and if Goldango switches against Corviknight, Corviknight does not have any good moves against Goldango. It does not learn like knockoff, or it does not learn earthquake. It does not learn any
Yeah,
moves that can handle Goldango. So
yeah,
Gliscor will lay down the spikes or stealth rock, and then you switch into Goldango, and Goldango already is an amazing mon by itself, but it's the fact that it's so hard to get rid of spikes and to get rid of hazards with this pairing
yeah,
is like the reason why they want to
yeah,
ban Golden Go and why they want to ban Gliscor.
mm,
Golden Go has a 27.8% usage this month in October, and Gliscor had
yeah,
20.5% usage. That's so
yeah.
like 20% of the time you're going to see both of them.
And here's the other crazy part too. Goldango is part ghost type. He's immune to rapid spin. So you know why I say that Graytus can struggle against Goldango? Well, that's the reason why. Because Graytus is the best rapid spin in the game, but he cannot rapid spin when Goldango's on the board. He has to get rid of him first. And when you have Gliscor on top of that, Graytus's job at being able to remove hazards is incredibly hard to do.
Yeah, and
No,
if you
you
want
have
to
to get rid
use
of either one. You have to get rid of Goldango first, but you got to deal with Gliscor at the same time. It's like you have to kill at least one to stand any chance to remove hazards, and that leads to one of the Pokemon here that I'm looking at the current the chart here for the top used Pokemon in OU for October. The one mon that actually does bypass Good as Gold is Cinderace's signature move Core Change because it's not a status affecting change move. It literally just switches hazards to different sides. And honestly, considering that Cinderace is a fire type, it actually is one of the few good counters to Dogodang because it's faster. It threatens it with a super effective fire type move. It bypasses the balloon moveset, which is the most common right now for Golden Gull. So it straight up beats that completely. And it can live a maker rank because it's a fire type and fire type by default. It
if
has U-turn.
Gliscor
Yeah,
switches in, Gliscor has great
yeah,
physical defense, but if Gliscor switches in, then Cinderace can just U-turn out.
yeah, exactly. So it's like Cinderace is like, yeah, like Cinderace gets hardballed by Gliscor, but considering you have U-turn and core change and a good of super effective with the Thread Skoldango, it's actually one of the only few Pokemon that actually does okay against this core. Or as long as you have the proper teammates that takes care of Gliscor, like Cinderace is a really good check to these. But
But that's the
even
only
core
check.
change, yeah, and that leads to the one problem about core change. Core change does let you switch hazards and even screens. True, you can do that. But the problem with core change is they could just drop hazards again right in front of your face. They could just do it again.
Yeah, like
So
court like
if you really want to shut down the hazard setting combo of Gliscor and Goldango as much as you can, you need a Magic Bounce user. That's why Hattering is very common, because Magic Bounce is one of the best abilities at controlling hazards. But the problem is, even Hattering loses to Goldango because it's a fairy type, and Mega Ray just threatens it out. Its physical bug is not that amazing, so Gliscor can just take advantage of it, Toxic Stall on purpose, and even with Magic Bounce, it doesn't freaking matter because, like, that's what Gliscor wants. He wants to get poisoned, so he could just Toxic Stall, so he could just poison heal stall you.
so with Magic Bounce in Pokemon, the only Pokemon that doesn't lose to Goldango is Mega Absol, and unsurprisingly, Mega Absol isn't in the game. But right now, the only Pokemon in the game with Magic Bounce is Hatterene and Espeon, both psychic types, so they lose to Goldango.
Yeah. Okay, so like here's the weird part though. Goldango wasn't really that overpowered for the longest time. Like, it was clearly an insane Pokemon, clearly insanely good, but it wasn't like super broken. It was, however, a meta defining Pokemon just because its ability completely changed the way how hazards would be played. Like, just that ability alone made hazards way more common and harder to remove. But besides that one huge meta impact, Goldango wasn't really broken up to the point it was ban worthy at all. Even though there was debate about suspect test at the beginning of the metagame, he stayed in anyway in general, and he had his weaknesses. But I actually think, unless Gliscor gets banned, I think Gliscor might have pushed Goldango over the edge completely. I think.
Yeah, because Golden Go is a fine Pokemon. Like it had weaknesses. Like it did have weaknesses that you could abuse, but it's just the fact that Gliscor now came into the metagame and has such an amazing pairing with Golden Go. But in your opinion, do you think Golden Go or Gliscor should be banned? If you could ban one of them, which one do you think it
Uh,
should be?
okay, this one. Okay, I might get some hate for this. I think it might be Golden Go, but the only reason why is because the ability his signature ability is like the most like oppressive ability in terms of like hazard removal. Because in my opinion, I'll be honest with you, if Goldango got banned, hazards would be in a balanced state, even by Gliscor standards. Because if you do
Because it
that,
would be
that means
so much
hazards become
easier to
easier to
get rid of
remove.
them.
Yeah, exactly. Because hazards is one of the most meta-defying things about Pokemon. It is one of the most common things you see on teams. Like most teams will have a hazard setter on the board in some way, whether it is either a Stealth Rock, Spikes, Toxic Spikes user, um, whatever the case may be. Like even maybe screen setters, like say Alola Ninetales or Grimmsnarl if you played as a niche in OU for as a prankster screen setter. Like just things like that are normally so hard to remove because of Goldango. If you just ban Goldango, those become much easier to counterplay and remove.
I totally agree with you, though. I don't think you ban both of them, but it's just the fact that they're so good together. I don't think you can ban both of them. That would be a really dumb decision if you ban both of them. But I'm totally on pair with you that if you ban Goldango, it would be so much healthier for the metagame because not only is Goldango a really good ability with like Choice Scarf or Air Balloon, it's the fact that hazard removal is so good. Like it's so hard to go against Goldango and try to hazard removal. You can't rapid spin it and you can't defog it. There goes your options for trying to get rid of hazards. And it's immune. Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
it's immune to mortal spin.
Yeah. Oh, actually, wait. There was actually one more Pokemon I actually forgot to mention that technically did counter Goldango. Hisuian Samurott, because its Dark Stab move that sets up spikes beats Goldango completely, and it's faster than it flip turn. But yeah, but I just wanted to get that out of the way because I actually forgot about that mod for a minute.
It's
But
kind of funny
yeah,
because
because
like
here's my count. Yeah,
Samurott does outspeed Goldango. I'm looking at the stats. Samurott is base 85. Goldengo is base 80. So by 1 point. But if
yeah. Okay, so yeah,
But if Goldengo has Thunderbolt, then that's GG's.
yeah. That's pretty much that. So now I'll get to Gliscor part. The most common there some of the account arguments I didn't see all of them, but the most ones that I've heard was it promotes stall teams because Glasgow was a staple in stall teams. And to be fair, that is a fair argument, but my counter argument to that is that he doesn't learn Roost anymore, so he's not as effective on stall teams as he once was. The only reason he's still, I think, effective is because he did learn Toxic Spikes and Spikes in exchange for losing Roost, so it would go Dango on that type of team comp. It's so hard to beat stall. So, and also his bulk, and also he's a good abuser of terrestrialization. If you just terrestrialize to the type that removes his weaknesses, like I see water and fairy being the most common on Gliscor, because those are very good defensive typings in general. Gliscor can be pretty hard to remove, of which I think is completely fair and understandable. But I think, again, as I said, if you bangle dangle to remove has it's easier. I think you could keep Gliscor in the game. I think Gliscor is actually not as overpowered as some people think. I understand the arguments of why he could be ban worthy because of what he is able to learn this gen, all his parents or whatever. But but he still has some of the same weaknesses as before, and with no roost, he's easier to rare down compared to before.
Yeah, totally. I think I'm totally on the same boat with you that if you wanted to ban one of them, you ban Golden Go because Golden Go is such a good ability because Golden Go is such a good mon. Because like if Golden Go got banned, then Gliscor would be still good mon. But if Gliscor got banned, then Golden Go would still be oppressive and still be like top, like still be meta defining. So I'm totally on the same boat with you.
Yeah,
So there has also been some talk that I wanted. So to end the podcast, we've been talking about the usage stats. We couldn't get through all of them. We got off topic. Totally, but I'm
yeah.
totally fine with that. I
All
just
right. To
want to
be fair,
mention
this podcast became great because of it.
there's two things that I wanted to mention. One really small, and then one to end the podcast with. For the usage stats in October. There's a Pokemon in Ubers that was top 10 in usage that was not an Uber Pokemon. I want you to guess without looking at it. I want you to guess who that Pokemon is, and I'll give you a hint. It's not Skeledirge or Teen Lu.
I wonder what it could be.
Not to take a guess, man. Just try to
Okay.
guess who this Pokemon is.
Let me guess. It's an Oh wait, you were asking me. I thought you were asking the audience watching this. Oh, because like I have the chart on here actually. When you asked the
No,
question, like
no, I was
before you asked
asking
it.
you. I was asking you to guess. I was asking you to guess. What do you think
Yes.
this Pokemon
Okay.
was that
Okay.
was
To be
top
fair,
10 in
to be fair,
usage?
I'm looking at the OU chart, not that. Let me see. I'm looking at the OU chart actually, just to guess. I didn't see the Uber one.
That's hilarious. But yeah,
Let me see. Okay, I think I may know because it's a mod we briefly mentioned because it learns this one move. Is it Rabombi?
yeah, Ribombee. Ribombee
Yeah,
is number 8.
a really fast. Yeah, really fast sticky web user. The only fast sticky web user in the game so far.
It has a 13% usage rate. It has a higher percentage usage rate
What?
than Giratina Origin and Groudon. 13%
What?
usage in Ubers.
Huh? What? Wait, what? That's insane.
You can
What?
look at the
Oh my
chart
god.
right now. It is number
fast
8 in
sticky web
usage.
user. Oh
It's
my, that
hilarious.
is. Oh, here's the chart. What?
Number
Huh?
8 in usage,
And it falls short of
13.88%
Arceus. What?
usage, higher than Giratina Origin, higher than Groudon. And And it's the fact that if you hold a focus, if it holds a focus sash, really the only Pokemon, no, not even, like no Pokemon can really get rid of sticky webs before Rabombi sets it down, especially with focus sash. So I totally understand why number 8.
I don't think. Jesus. Okay. Uh, that's just insane.
It's
Like,
funny. It's
uh,
understandable why it's number 8 in usage and why people are using it in Ubers, but it's still funny.
yeah. And the funny part is, bro, Bobby's actually good in OU. Just because it's a fast sticker user, it even has other good moves it can use besides just sticky rep. And like, it actually has a good use in this meta.
Yeah,
Because
Rabombi
originally, like,
was Urabombi was look, I'm trying to find it. What did I say it
yeah,
was? Oh yeah, 23, it was ranked 23 at 8.655% usage rate, which is still alright, but it's
yeah,
just a fast sticky web,
yeah.
especially with
Honest,
Focus
yeah,
Sash.
yeah. And you know the good thing that I think Robobi is a great example of. Before this gen, Robobi was probably one of the best examples of, even though it's not an OU Pokemon by usage, but in terms of viability, it did had a viable niche in the OU tier because it was the fastest sticky rep user at the time.
Mhm.
So if you wanted a fast sticky rep user, it was actually better than Galvantula. But if you wanted a good sticky rep user that was good in rank, you played Galvantula. So like those mons by usage are not OU at all. They're considered not OU by usage. But because they had a good niche as a sticky rep user, they actually saw play in OU despite not being OU by usage. They were
It,
like a good
yeah.
example of that reason. Even like bad, even like lower tier Pokemon can have a niche in the OU tier if their niche is good enough to set itself apart and not have competition.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to talk about before we end the podcast is the conversation that might get the most controversial, and the one that we might be talking about the most. They want to try to retest some Pokemon in OU from Ubers, and the face of that is Darkrai. They want to try to some people have been wanting to try to test Darkrai back in OU.
Okay, I'm gonna say my pit off the gate. I think it could go to OU, and I don't think it would cause that many problems. I'm just saying
Because
it.
here's the
Because
thing.
its main move, its main move is worse hypnosis now because it's
Yeah,
50% accuracy. There's almost no reason to use it, and that was the one of, if not the main reason, it was Ubers to begin with. No mon could stop it. Two, yes, it's a fast, nasty plot sweeper, but the problem is its stats are not the greatest defensively. Like at least not like in comparison to other Uber Pokemon. Its defense stats is lower, and yeah, it is a good move pool, but the problem is it has a move slot syndrome where it cannot fit every good move in its move slot. And if you sacrifice Nasty Plot to fit in another coverage move, you lost a bit of your wall breaking potential from doing that unless you play Life Orb. But if you run Nasty
because like
Plot, but if you,
unless you have Focus Blast, it gets hard checked by Teen Lu.
yeah, yeah, like it literally cannot touch Ting Lu. It can actually lose to Dragapult. Like I know Dragapult is a ghost type Pokemon, but Dragapult is so fast that it very likely will
It can
kill
U-turn.
Darkrai before it ever gets a chance. Yeah, it can even U-turn out if it doesn't want to. Um, it loses to Iron Moth because Iron Moth's special defense stat is actually really solid for what it does, and because of
Darkrai
speed
learns
boost, it
Psychic.
outspeeds it significantly. Yep, Iron Valiant beats it 100% because it's too fast for it because of boost strategy, and it has the perfect typing to beat it.
Here's the
Zamasu,
thing though.
yeah,
Here's the thing though, is that it doesn't really have any counters on paper, at least. Like, yeah, Iron Valiant is a counter. Here's the argument, is that even though Iron Valiant even is a counter, it's the fact that Iron Valiant has to let ally die and then switch in. Really, the only true counter on paper is Teen Lu, but it does suffer from four move syndrome because yeah, 135 special attack is really insane, but you really need Nasty Plot to try to like be a wall breaker. So like if you had Nasty Plot, Dark Pulse, Sludge Bomb, Psychic, you lose to Teen Lu.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, that's the one thing. Like, even though I think he should go to Oya because he definitely has clear weaknesses compared to previous gens. Um, I do technically agree with some of the counter argument why he should stay banned completely. Like, because like you mentioned, like besides a few hard counters, like and for boost slot syndrome, he would effectively be one of the best wall breakers that almost has no good safe switchings into, besides maybe Ting Lu. Um,
I'm trying to do
I
the
think
calculations right now as well.
yeah,
So, a focus blast from Darkrai. If a Teen Lu switched into Darkrai and it used Focus Blast, and it had 252 special attack, it had a timid nature, and Teen Lu had 252 in HP and 4 in special defense. Focus Blast is a 2-hit KO guaranteed, unless it misses.
and that's
But
before Nasty Plot.
yes,
Okay,
but here's the thing.
so
But here's the
it's
thing:
so
is that it suffers from four move syndrome. So you need You need a Dark Pulse. Sludge Bomb is practically guaranteed, and then you have either Psychic or Focus Blast, and then that already alone is a problem with 4 move syndrome.
yeah, and the thing is, like, if you want to keep the wall breaking potential, and not suffer for forward loose slide, you would be forced to run either Life Orb or Choice Specs, and then add in Sidekick or Focus Blast for the fourth move slide, and vice versa. But the problem is that if you choose that, you chip yourself with Life Orb, and if you go Choice Specs route, you're locked, and which makes you much easier to play around. And it's not as strong as like doing Nasty Plot, because at least like if you do Nasty Plot, you could do whatever you want afterwards, so you're not locked, and then you could still run Life Orb to make yourself insanely strong.
Yeah.
Or you could
So
run like what is it like one of those items that could boost the power of your stab moves. Like I don't remember if there's one for dark type mons where like it's an item that like you hold it and boosts the power of your dark moves.
glasses. Is that
Yeah.
is that
Oh
the
yeah,
item you're
glasses.
talking
That's
about?
one. Yeah, that one. Yeah. I
Okay.
guess another good thing is that he is a good abuser, potential good abuser to isolation, not for defensive typing, just as an offensive typing.
Yeah, like Terra Poison is probably Darkrai's best Terra because it gets rid of the bug fighting and fairy weaknesses it has. Um and then you get
And
stab
it
on
also
Sludge
makes it
Bomb.
yeah, and on top of that, you also become immune to toxic, so you cannot lose to toxic stalling. So
Yeah, and then
which
if
is
you
actually
if
fun, which is actually fun. Yeah, yeah, and Terra Poison is really funny because that was the best Terra type for Blood Moon or Saluna, which is why the Blood Moon beat a toxic stalling to begin with, and it became way too hard to kill. Can't wait.
So I think personally that they should just test it
Uh,
out. Just when especially when DLC 2 comes out and there's so many more Pokemon that are going to get buffed and Pokemon that are going to be introduced. I think that they should at least just attempt to try to put Darkrai in OU just to see how it is. And then if it's too powerful, yeah, move it back to Uber. But in DLC
yeah,
2 when more
yeah,
Pokemon
like
come out and more moves come out, just test it. That's all I'm saying is just test it and see how it is.
yeah, like as much as I really do think, I think Darkrai could come back to OU with no test, and I don't think he would do that much. I do agree. I think if you want to play it safe, bring him back just to do a test first and then see how he does. Because they did that with the Sambatsu, Flying type legendary, and the Steel one got banned pretty quickly, but the regular form actually stayed because it proved to be completely fine in OU. Like you see in the October stats, it's the 11th most used mon because it was very good at OU, but in Ober it was one of the worst Pokemon ever that almost nobody used it by usage stats. It had
Yeah.
no role in the tier, and it literally did not have anything unique to give it like at least in worst case some form of a niche. But in OU, it's perfectly fine. It's a very good Pokemon, but it clearly has flaws even in the OU tier, but it's still a very strong Mon. So who knows? Like Darkrai in the next DLC could become like Zombitsu. He'll be perfectly fine and viable in the OU tier and be good, but he just won't be good in Ubers anymore.
Yeah,
Or he could still
Zamazenta
prove to be too
was
strong for yeah,
yeah,
and he
Zamazenta
could
is
or
alright in
yeah,
OU. But yeah, Zamazenta is alright in OU, but not overpowered. And I think that could be the same thing for Darkrai, where it's a good Pokemon for sure. Like there's no way it's gonna go in OU and not be a good Mon, but I think they should just test it just to make sure, especially in DLC 2. There are also some Pokemon that I personally think should be retested. Like the number, like other than Darkrai, I think they should retest Volcarona. Like I did not agree with that ban whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, and I agreed with you about the one point. I should have mentioned it. I didn't think Volcarona was that overpowered, but I did think terrestrialization was the main reason he got banned because that kind of made him a little bit oppressive.
Yeah, because you could quiver
It
dance
was
and
also
then
it
Terra
like
Grass. Because you could like quiver dance
yeah,
and then Terra Grass Giga Drain. So terrestrialization
yeah,
is like the only reason it was banned to Ubers because it was not banned to Ubers and it was not banned to Ubers in Gen 5 through Gen 8. It's not a coincidence that it was banned to Ubers. I think they even said in the test that the only reason Volcarona was banned is because of how good it was in terrestrialization.
yeah, yeah, and that leads to an interesting question: is like, let's say if the DLC second DLC comes out, it introduces a meta impactful Pokemon, but we get more bans because of terrestrialization. This leads to an interesting question: like, could we ban terrestrialization instead? Because
That
like,
that is one of the
let's say
topics that I
terrestrial.
was that's one of the things that I've been thinking about is what if they just banned terrestrialization?
Yeah, because I mean, let's think about it. Dynamax got banned literally a week after Sword and Shield came out. But to be fair, it made sense because Dynamax was insanely overpowered. There was literally no counterplay to the mechanic, even on the good Pokemon. Like Ditto was essentially close to the top 10 Pokemon because it abused Dynamax so easily because of Choice Scarf and transfer the copy stats.
Yeah.
But after that, the meta shifted completely, and it's been adjusting since then. But we've had Terra Mechanic for a year, and the counter was, well, Terrestrialization has more counterplay. And to some extent, I technically agree, but I think, and I know this might be a hot take, I think we've reached a point where I think Terrestrialization might be a bit oppressive on most mons in the OU tier.
Yeah.
And like
Cuz
you
like
said before, like Volcawater was oppressive because of Terrestrialization, where you could not kill it if it terrestrialized at the right timing.
yeah, cuz like Pokemon like
Yeah,
Roar and
and you,
Moon
yeah,
and Reggie like Pokemon like Roar and Moon and Reggie
yeah,
like in Ogerpon, the only reason they got banned is because they could terrestrialize.
yeah,
If terrestrializing got banned, then like all four of those mons would go back to OU. Cuz why
yeah,
is
yeah,
cuz
and yeah, so actually, sorry to interrupt you. There was one thing I was gonna say. You know, one mon that I would like to see get tested again and maybe come back to OE, even though I'm very biased because I loved playing this mon. If they ban terrestrialization, I think Ursula Bloodmoon might actually be easier to deal with.
here's the
Because
thing though. Here's
okay,
the thing. Here's the thing.
okay.
100 it
Before
has
you
135 special it has 135 special attack, really good physically bulky, and the fact that it can hit ghost type moves with its normal stab. I mean, okay. Okay, imagine I'm a small gun tester. Talk to me. Tell me why you think Ursaluna without terrestrialization should be staying in OU.
okay, listen. Before I give my argument, I'm completely wrong. I'm very biased. I think Ursula Bloodmoon should stay banned, and I only want him on banned because I'm biased. Let's say if I wanted him on banned and I was a tester, his typing is actually not as good defensively as most really think. Because even though regular Ursaluna chipped itself down because of guts and flame orb, which made it really easy to revenge kill and had no reliable recovery. One of the reasons it was easy to revenge kill wasn't because not only because of guts and flame orb, it was also because its typing was not that great defensive. Like you were weak to fighting, you're weak to water, you're weak to ice, and you're weak to grass. Those are four common. I know grass is not the most common offensive typing, but the other three are extremely common, and it does not have many other good resistances besides like rock and I think poison. I actually no, I don't think it's. Actually no, I think it's like neutral to poison. I think, but I know it has a resistance to rock and has an immunity to electric, which is technically good. Do not get me wrong, but if you really look at that, he's weak to his weaknesses are mainly to common attacking moves, and considering that even though Ursaluna had better specially defensive bulk and solid physical defensive bulk, he still was easy to wear down because of how slow he was. Now, now let's go to Ursaluna Blood Moon. Yes, um, he's the complete opposite of Ursaluna in terms of longevity because he has Moonlight for recovery, he has Calm Mind to compensate his special defense being really bad, and he has Vacuum Wave for priority. So because of those three aspects, I definitely think Blood Moon Ursaluna should stay banned. But if you ban Terrestrialization, there is a possibility he could be an OU because his type is not that great defensively speaking, which makes him easier to wear it down, and that would mean he loses to Toxic it completely because he would just auto lose to Toxic Stallers completely if you remove Terrestrialization. Because let's be real, Terra Poison was his most common defensive Terra type besides Fairy because of that reason where it removes his fighting weakness. It would give you, because your bulk was so good, most physical attacking ground types would not even do 50% to you anyway because your bulk was so insane, and you were immune to Toxic, so you could remove Toxic Spike safely with him and you don't lose the Toxic Stall. So you can see like why terrestrialization game banned would actually affect the Mon's viability. Like if you look at the October stats here, like originally in September, Ursula Blumel was the fifth use, and he dropped all the way down to 27th most used in October. But like you said before, just because he's seen less play does not mean he's not unhealthy for the game. So, but TLDR, I still think deep down, Blum Ursula should stay banned completely, even if terrestrialization got banned. But I do think banning terrestrialization would maybe at least give me a reason to maybe give him another test, just to at least see what his impact would be like without terrestrialization. Because I mean, keep in mind too, Ursula, despite learning Vacuum Wave, it still is pretty slow by default.
But here's the
And not
thing with
every Ursula in
Ursaluna.
Blood Moon set ran Vacuum Wave.
I mean, I guess you could do an argument that Corviknight is a good check to Ursaluna with its flying and steel types, but other than Ursaluna, I'm trying to think of any other good counters where they can switch in, take the attack, and then do good damage to them.
Let me see. Ogre
Other
Water would
than
not be very good. It cannot switch in safely, but Ogre Water would threaten it offensively, but defensively it would not because its defensive stats is not the best, so it cannot take a Blood Moon very well.
Yeah, there are just some Pokemon in Ubers that just should, even if terrestrializing should be banned, even if terrestrializing should be banned, they should stay in Ubers, like Espathra. Even without terrestrialization, Espathra should stay Uber. No way that Pokemon will ever go back to OU.
Yeah, yeah, okay. But I do have one hot take about Blood Moon Luna, and again, it's just me being biased here, and like I said before, just like I said about Terrestrialization, even if Terrestrialization was banned, I still think Blood Ursula deep down is a big fan of him. He should stay banned because everything else about him is so good. He's the complete opposite of Ursula in terms of longevity. But
I and
I
I
think the
don't.
main reason why Blood Ursula is so oppressive it's because of his ability Mind's Eye. I think if his ability was completely different, or let's say if he got a new ability but lost Mind's Eye, like let's say any ability that worked with him, his like moveset everything, but it did not but he did not was not allowed to hit ghost types with no more fighting type moves. I still think he would be really insanely broken and strong, but I think he'd be easier to deal with because that would at least mean ghost types could at least deal with him a bit better. But then again, the counter argument to myself basically is that he still would have Earth power to deal with those ghost types. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
just and it's just that his ability is so good that a lot of ghost type Pokemon cannot really like switch in. It's just that he doesn't really have that many
Yeah,
good counters because of flying types like Zapdos and Gliscor. Other than Corviknight,
yeah, they get
just Blood Moon. Just like what's that move? Blood Moon?
yeah, which is actually yeah, that's the move. And which is actually funny because a comment said that was common with Gliscor when Blood Moon was running Rampant was actually a substitute build that was designed specifically just to be Blood Moon or Luna.
So I'm being honest with you. I don't think Ursaluna should go back to OU unless
I don't
somehow it
think it
got a
will.
new
I don't think
ability.
it will either.
Unless somehow it got a new
Yeah.
ability and they just banned Mind's Eye. I'm sorry, but I don't think Ursaluna should go back to OU just because it doesn't have any
Yeah,
counters.
no, I agree with you. Like I said many times, I was just being biased in that and just trying to get my car. But even deep down, I know, like, yeah, Blood Barcelona, even with some of these bans to other things, it's still way too oppressive. Like, it's just not healthy for the game.
Okay, you
Which is also
said your
funny.
hot
Speaking of
take.
that,
You said your hot take. Ooh, get ready for my hot take. Okay,
Yeah,
this is going to be if this is going to be highly
yeah.
offensive. So kids, cover your
I was
ears.
actually gonna I
Ki-
was actually going to mention this before you mentioned your hot take quickly. Because you know how, like, Blissey saw a high usage in OU because it was one of the only few good quote unquote counter source for Bloodmoon? Well,
yeah.
guess what? Bloodmoon learned Body Press, which used its physical defense for for its attack power and not its actual physical attack. So basically, Blissey lost it to that build completely. So there was literally no true counter to Blood Moon. There was no true counter.
So yeah, you got your hot take. Here's my hot
Right
take.
here.
Get ready, kids, cover your ears. I think Landorus and Carnot should be back in OU for retesting. Hear me out. Hear me out. I know I
Mm.
before you click off, before you listen to an hour and 25 minutes, and before you click off, hear me out. Landers is not good in Ubers. I know that's not a good argument for it being back in OU, but it's just that I really wanted to. It's just that I really wanted to it get retested in OU just to see how it is because I really like using Landers Incarnate, but I just want to test it and just to see how it is. I'm trying to go over and trying to look if there's any counters to Ursaluna. I mean, I guess Teen Lu, but Teen Lu can lose to Grass Knot. I mean, I guess there's no counters. Other than Blissey, I just want it retested. I just wanted to just try it in OU again, and just to see how insane it is again.
So basically, do the same thing like we discussed. How retest him for like Dark Rhinoceros just to see how well he does
Yeah.
in a way.
And especially when DLC 2 comes out, I think even if he is
um,
oppressive, I just want to make sure.
yeah. Actually, now that I'm looking at his moveset, like he actually would not abuse his own signature with Sandseer Storm because it has a second effect of burn, but with Sheer Force, it just completely removes that burn effect. It just the
So
cost to
yeah,
just
you
make it
just want to. So
stronger.
yeah,
Well,
you just might as well use Earth Power instead, then, since it's 100%
yeah,
accurate.
yeah, and that makes it more consistent. I'm just trying to think of what other reasons like you would want to run it. Like, I mean, it still is a good physical attacker with like U-turn for switch momentum.
And Rock Slide, since it
Hmm.
gets a boost from that.
Okay, I think the only reason why I don't think he should probably like go back would be like he does link Calm Mind and Nasty Plot for setup, so he can be a very good setup sweeper. Like technically, in a way, better than Darkrai because his typing is just better defensively speaking, and it's also faster too. So there's at least that one as well. Well, not faster than Darkrai. Faster than his uh Lando T form, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just want even if he is oppressive, I tried to use this argument in a Discord server. To say it didn't go well is not a good description, but people think that Landers I should be banned to Ubers for a long, long time. Um, but I just wanted to be retested. But yeah, that's my hot take. But man, we've been talking for almost an
Honestly,
hour and 30
yeah,
minutes. That's pretty good for
yeah,
podcast length. But
yeah,
I
very
should.
much. But like, yeah, but like, if you really want him to just come back, like, just to at least test it, like, honestly, I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. Because I mean, someone that does that every time Genesis comes back for some stupid reason, they always give him a retest, even though he was clearly not meant for OU from the beginning to begin with. Never was OU material for beginning because he was just that broken and impossible to counterplay.
So before we end this off, do you have any final thoughts that you wanted to get out about singles in OU?
Um, I think between Goldango and Gliscor, Goldango should be the one to get banned. Gliscor, I think, is actually fine despite the insane buffs to spikes and toxic spikes because he doesn't learn roost anymore, so he's easier to wear down. Hazard's become much easier to move, but Hazard still would still remain as a very impactful move because they've always been staples, even in generations where they were not common because of the fog. They still saw play. Kingambit should
Mm-hmm.
100% get banned. It is literally a comeback mechanic in itself. It should not actually be viable. Yes, it does have some weaknesses, but every strength about him is so good that it makes his weaknesses almost non-existent. At least Great Tusk has actual weaknesses, I suppose, and it's like one of the best Pokemon in the game. Um, Oh yeah, I guess we should have mentioned that War Moon got banned, but mainly because like Bascala got banned and knockoff was a huge buff to it, made it the best knockoff used in the game. He went going back to OU because some of the mods that made him bad, like Fire Ogre Pond, got banned, etc. And Alomo going back to OU because it the moveset learned of like Wish, Flip Turn, Scald, and Toxic made it super good in OU for the very first time in its career. But
Mm-hmm.
that's just to get that. But that's just to get that out of the way. I think there is a debate about Ogerpon and Water getting banned, but honestly, I think it's a lot more fair compared to the Fire one. Fire one was oppressive because Moldbreaker ignored every ability, which was the reason He-Man went to OUU, because Ogerpon Fire basically just hard countered Heatran super hard. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe Manaphy, but I'm not really convinced about Manaphy just yet. I'll have to see, but I'm not really super convinced about Manaphy. I even see that Ogerpon Rock is in OU, which is really surprising, but I guess that makes sense considering it's a fast Rock user that gets a good boost. But besides those, um, maybe Darkrai could probably go back to OU. I do think he won't have an impact on OU anymore, like how Mitsu Fighting one has had no impact on OU despite being a very good Pokemon. But I
Mm-hmm.
do agree he should get tested first just to see how he does. And if he doesn't, if he performs fine in OU but not really well in Ubers, then that's perfectly fine with me. Because I hated the mod, but it was only because the Dark Void was just really annoying. I actually did not mind the mod otherwise because I thought he was cool anyway. But besides that, besides those bands, I think OU is actually in an okay position, is in a decent spot. Besides, some of those broken mods should just be removed from the game completely.
Yeah, totally. I think that if you banned Kingambit, obvious ban. Like, no way. Please ban it soon as possible. Golden Go, I think could be banned too. If you really wanted to ban Golden Go, I think you like totally fine with banning Golden Go, but Kingambit should be banned in about a week. Like even in DLC 2 with the more Pokemon coming back, I think it should still be banned because I can't really think of any Pokemon that are coming back that would be good into Kingambit. But yeah, just my final thoughts. Kingambit should be banned. Golden Go could be banned. And then the OU
Yeah,
metagame would be so healthy and so good. Because Great Tusk would take
yeah,
number one, but it's a great mon, but it's not a broken mon. But yeah, I just wanted that's just
yeah, Great Tusk is like Landotine in Gen 5 to 8. Even though it was what the most used Pokemon, it basically kept the metagame in check.
yeah. But
That's pretty much was the same thing.
But yeah, thank you for coming on this episode today.
No problem, Torbex. It was great. It was a pleasure being here on this podcast.
Yeah, and it's just fun to
It was
talk
just good
about
discussing
Pokemon's
Pokemon. Yeah.
things. But yeah, next week, I'm trying to get a guest to come on and talk about the Toronto VGC regional. So stay tuned for next week. But yeah, thank you for
Uh,
coming to the
oh, actually,
podcast.
yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but the Toronto regional thing is it the one that has two Blood Moon or Salunas in the top 8?
No, that's not the Toronto one. That's a different one.
Oh, okay, because I was about to mention, like, yay, Blood Moon or Saluna
Wait,
supremacy,
I
let's
could be wrong.
go.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I saw the
Top
pic
eight.
of the
I'm
top
checking
8 on
right
the
now.
Moxie Boost.
I'm checking right now. They had two Blood Moon Ursalunas in top eight, sixth place and seventh
Let's
place.
go, let's go. Broken Cocaine Bear supremacy for the win. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get a special guest. I'm gonna try to get a guest on here next week to
Yeah.
talk about the Toronto regionals. I'm not really good with outros, but yeah, thank you for listening to the podcast and stay tuned till next week. See ya.